Welcome. I'm Ryan Austin. I'm the founder and CEO of Cognota. We're very excited today to be hosting this webinar on LearnOps, the ROI advantage over project management tool. I know that attendees are still coming in, but before getting started, we'll start with a quick poll. And just curious, who here is measuring ROI currently in learning and development? Exciting. We'll let that continue to climb. And in the meantime, very excited to introduce you to the co-panelists of today's session. With me, I have Sarah Bain, Patty Phillips, and Lamont Boykins. Sarah, why don't you go ahead and quickly introduce yourself first?
Sure. Thank you, Ryan. My name is Sarah Bain. I am the Director of Product Strategy here at Cognota. And I've had the really good fortune of working very closely with Patty and the ROI Institute to bring the ROI methodology into the Cognota products. So I'm here to represent products effectively. And with that, why don't I hand it off to Patty, who everybody knows?
Well, maybe not, but thank you, Sarah. So it's a pleasure to be here today, joining the Cognota team and Lamont from Spectrum to talk about ROI and Cognota and how the two work together. I'm Patty Phillips, CEO of ROI Institute. My husband, Jack Phillips, and I founded the company about 30 years ago. It's all based on his work from the early 1970s, where he started helping organizations, particularly his at Lockheed Martin, or Lockheed at the time, demonstrate the impact and return on investment in people, programs, and projects. So over the years, the process has evolved. And we're just happy to be part of this project team with Cognota and share some of what we've developed over the years with Cognota and Cognota customers. So pleasure to be here.
And I think that leads it up to me, Lamont Boykins. I'm the VP of Learning and Development at Spectrum Enterprise. I do primarily focus on ROI and just about everything we'll do, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But happy to be here, happy to share a few things, and looking forward to the conversation. Thank you. Ryan?
Thank you. And I'm Ryan Austin, again, today's host, founder and CEO of Cognota, which is a learning operations platform. And for those of you who do not know us yet, we're helping to build the ecosystem around LearnOps, as we call it, or learning operations, providing community, free job boards, thought leadership, as well as exciting content like today's session. So with that said, we can jump in to talk about today's agenda. We're going to be covering some very exciting agenda items, particularly focused on the ROI advantage of a LearnOps platform, as well as having evidence-based approaches to doing this. So we're going to look into what is the ROI, the importance of learning impact in ROI, looking into what is LearnOps, the importance of learning operations, and also using today as a platform to more formally show you the partnership between the ROI Institute and Cognota and the benefits that by bringing together the methodology with technology, what streamlining LearnOps and ROI can do for you. So with that said, perhaps Patty, we'll kick this off with you. In your opinion, what is ROI in the context of learning and development?
So, and if we can go to the next slide. So ROI in the context of learning and development is ROI in the context of business. So it's the same ROI used regardless. And I appreciate when people put it in context of L&D, but it's the same thing if you're talking the real ROI, and that's what we're talking about, which is down here, that level 5. So this framework may be familiar to many of you. The framework is, this is the Phillips 5-level evaluation framework. It is built on Raymond Katzel's 4 steps. Raymond Katzel built those. It was a conceptual framework. And so he designed that in the 50s. Don Kirkpatrick wrote about it. And then in the 70s, Jack operationalized it, doing a few things. One, identifying measures that really matter at each level, but then also adding economic theory, and that's ROI. So when we talk about ROI, we're really talking about the actual return on investment. So benefits compared to cost in monetary terms. But when we report ROI, we report it in the context of these other types of measures. So this is just the framework of measures, the way we categorize it. The investment begins here at level 0. That's your inputs and activities. So how many people are trained, how much you spend per person on training and development, so whatever the activity is, that represents your investment. But as you roll any type of program or project or initiative, it could be a training program, it could be coaching, it could be implementing a new LMS, whatever the project is, there's always a reaction to it. And that reaction is measured different ways, but we want to measure it in a meaningful way. And typically we're going to look at relevance or commitment to use or follow through. So it's getting that participant buy-in, those people involved in the program or project. From a learning perspective, people need to know what they need to know, regardless of what type of program or project it is. They need to know how the system works. They need to have the skills. They need to have the right contacts. So learning is important, because to get to ROI, people need to know what it is they need to know. So level 1, level 2, here we're measuring value for money, or we're measuring success of a project from that participant perspective. Are they buying in, and do they know what they need to know? And then we roll it out further to see if in fact they're doing it. Are they using the platform? Are they using the data? Are they using the skills? Are they changing their behaviors? And if they are, what is supporting them? And if they are not, why not? So at level 3, this is where we look at that transfer of learning, or the closure between the knowing and doing gap. People know what they need to know. Now they're executing it the way we want them to. And then impact is the consequence of people doing what you want them to do. So here we're looking at improvement in key business measures, the consequence of people changing their behavior or following the process. So we'll look at improvement in measures of output, quality, cost, time, customer satisfaction, job satisfaction, work habits, innovation. And then a big part of our methodology is isolating the effects of whatever that project is on improvement of the measures. So when we use the word impact, we mean impact. We mean impact that is tied to the program, project, or whatever the solution is. And it's this impact that serves as the basis for getting us to ROI. So here, after we isolate the effects of the program on improvement in the measures, we convert it to money using either profit, cost savings, or cost avoidance, compare it to the cost of whatever the project is, and calculate the ROI. And the value of all of these measures is, one, it tells the complete story of program success. You never report ROI in isolation of other measures, because it's only one measure. Okay. But when you do report it, you report it in the context of these other measures and what these other measures do for you. If you are asking the right questions, if you're taking the right measures, they will give you insight into how you can improve the program if in fact you don't see the results that you hope to achieve, that you hope to see. So when we talk ROI, we're talking about the real one. Okay, but we're reporting it in the context of other measures of success, because those measures represent that chain of impact, and because we have to know how we got there. We have to know how to improve the program. Where people often miss it is, and when we say, well, the framework doesn't work. Well, a framework doesn't work. A framework is not methodology. A framework is data categorization. So the data categories just represent a logical flow of information. What makes it work is how we put it to use in the methodology that supports it. So when we think ROI, the first time we think about it should be before we ever invest in the program. So if we can go to the next slide, many of you have seen this alignment model that we've been using for many, many years, but it just makes sense, right? It's not about a learning event. It's not about a project. It's about trying to help the organization make money, save money, avoid cost, and do greater good while making money, saving money, and avoiding cost. So when you think ROI, you should be thinking it before you ever invest in the solution. And you want to build that into the solution so that you are always targeting why you're doing what you're doing. So those payoff needs and business needs really are the basis for why we invest in a program, project, or solution. And then we do our research to see what is happening or not happening, that if we changed it, could help us improve these measures. And then what is it that people need to know to do what we want them to do, to improve the business measures, to take advantage of the payoff? And how can we roll it out so people commit to doing what we want them to do with what they now know, so they go out and perform, drive the business measures, take advantage of the payoff. So that left side of the V is really answering the question, why are we doing what we're doing? Why are we investing in this particular project? And then the objectives tell us how we're going to design it. So not just how you're going to design the evaluation, but how you're going to design the project, the program, or the solution. Because an objective is an intended outcome by definition. So your objectives represent your intent, and your intent should be to address the needs. We also use these objectives as the measures of success. A well-written objective will define the measures you're going to take through the evaluation process. And then all you do from there is collect data to see if, in fact, you achieve the objectives. So the left side answers the question, why are we doing what we're doing? The middle answers the question, how are we going to design, develop, and implement this program, and how are we going to measure success? And the right side answers the question, what results come from it? So you have why, how, and what. And then your methodology or your process model just serves as that process that you follow to get to reliable results. So we'll go to the next slide. This is the process model. And again, these first three boxes, that's where you plan the evaluation. Evaluation is planned before we ever launch the solution in the ideal world. So again, start with your why, get to the right solution, set up those expectations, those objectives. And then the next slide, all you have to do from there is collect your data. You're building data collection in. Data collection may be a survey instrument, it may be interviews, it may be focus groups, it could be action plans. At level 4, your data collection is typically going to be the operational records, which is where you got it in the first place when you answered the question why. And then on the next slide, analysis, we always want to do that robust analysis. We're going to isolate the effects of the program on improvement in those business measures, then convert measures to money, bring in the cost, calculate the ROI, and remember those intangible benefits. And then the last phase, that optimize results, we're going to do something with it, telling the story and then using the results to improve whatever the program, project, or initiative. We use the results to inform decisions, because evaluation without use of data is just another activity. So you're going to get your payoff for doing the ROI by using the information generated through the ROI process. So that's ROI and the ROI process, and we're very happy that we are leveraging our work with the work of Cognota to build this process into your project management work and your learning operations. So Ryan?
Yeah, no, I really appreciate the context, Patty, and it's really valuable work that I think is going to make a big impact for the industry. Lamont, being an operator and leading learning at Spectrum, why is learning impact and ROI important to you? You made the comment earlier that everything you do is ROI. Any insights to share there? And happy to also go to the other slide when you let me know.
Sure. Thank you for that, Ryan. And before I go there, I have to set the ground rule here on who is Spectrum Enterprise. Well, Spectrum Enterprise is part of Charter Communications, which is a publicly traded company. So since it's a publicly traded company, what are they trying to do? Maximize return for the investors. So the investors are looking to improve their investment, i.e. in terms of dollars. So in order for me to get dollars to fund projects, I have to show that it's working. So the reason why ROI is important, because I have the ability to show the data, the improvement that our sellers are doing, because our number one focus is on the selling side. what our sellers are doing to improve their sales process and to improve quota attainment, which in turn helps productivity, which in turn helps the reduction of attrition go down. So with all of that mixed together, that's why ROI is important in the spectrum. And again, it's more of justification of what you want to do, and it's easier to get things across the finish line when you have a return on a bona fide project, which we do have, and I could share that with you next, to the audience, and the audience being my business partners. So, and here's how we did it here at Spectrum on our sales side. And we also do the same thing for operations, but with different metrics, of course. But first we found out what the objective was. And the objective was to improve quota attainment and productivity and reduce retention for our sales force. Well, we didn't really have a true process. So what we did was we mapped out what type of quota attainment we were obtaining in 2022. So we launched this program in 2022. First measurable results didn't come out until 2021. It's a 12-week sales onboarding process. And as you see, year over year, our increase in quota attainment to where we are today. So we started out at 59.4%. We put in a process and we measure this every single month post-graduation. So what we do is, since the class is 12 weeks, and it's a blended approach where we do in-person, we do virtual instructor-led and self-paced, all blended together over a 12-week period. And they're also selling, so they're applying and doing, and just watch the performance increase. And over a 2.5 year period to October of this year, we're at 88% quota attainment from 59.4. Now, we measured this, and the good part about measuring is now I in turn go back to my business partners and say, I'd like to try this, and I'm going to measure it, and then they think of what we've done here, and boom, I get budget. Same thing on the operations side. I take this as my bell cow project and go to the operations and say, here's what we did, here's what we measured, here are the results. And again, boom, it's a lot easier to get funding because a lot of projects that we do require some type of funding. And then let me give you an example of funding. So my team, I got a great team working with me. With this project we did here that we were able to measure and show these measurable results from 59.4% quota attainment to 88% quota attainment. And that's starting actually in the first graduating class graduated in January of 2021. So if you see the incremental increase up through October of this year, it's pretty substantial on the sales side. With the result, the team has been working hard, and we were awarded 2 Gold Brandon Hall Awards, one in 2022 and one in 23. 2022 was the best advance in sales enablement tools, and 2023 was best sales onboarding program. Again, one of the reasons why I should say that we got this is because we were able to measure our results, to measure the effect that we had on our business partners. Simultaneously, also in 2023, we got a top 50 Learning and Development Team Award from the Oncon Group, another achievement from the team. And lastly, in 2023, this year, we were a top 100 in the Apex Award for our onboarding programs. So the key, again, is show what you do, show your results, and show how you got there. And more importantly, how does that affect what the objective is? And again, as you see, improved seller quota, the number one objective, increased 28.6% over this 3-year span. Technically a little less, but you get my point. By the way, the productivity also increased 30%, and reduction in attrition went down by over 25%. Now, we do realize that training isn't the only factor, but it's a major contributor to a lot of these components here. And with all that, in measuring it, once again, almighty budget comes more easily to get things accomplished.
We have one question here, Lamont. I don't know if you're willing to share high level, but what did the program actually consist of?
Sure. So what I did was we took a look at what our sales process is. So we have what we call a playbook, And we follow the training along the lines of the playbook, because in your playbook for a seller, it tells them what they should be doing day to day and all their activities. So what my team did is we took that playbook and then we started looking at all those activities and learnings that they do amongst that 12-week period. And we applied learning to each one. And it starts out being e-learning. It goes to virtual instructor led. Then there's at week 5, they come up to Stamford, Connecticut, which is headquarters, and they get immersed in the things that they've been learning through VILT and also e-learning, and we practice it up here. That also gives a good opportunity to bring down senior leadership to come to show the importance of the role, and senior leaders to make it more aspirational come and talk to the group. Then we send them back to the field weeks 9, 10, and 11. Once again, the same type of learning, e-learning, and also virtual instructor led. And I think, I'm sorry, 4 weeks, 6, 7, and 8. And then week 9, again, back in Stamford. And it's more practice of the things we did in weeks 6, 7, and 8. Then the icing on the cake is they go back to the field for weeks 10 and 11. Week 12 is a capstone graduation. Totally participative. Again, we still have senior level people come down to speak to the group during each session that they're up here. And we've seen a drastic excitement and conversation out in the field. And we've got about 1,400 sellers. And the conversation that this whole thing is drawing, plus the results that you see on this slide, added together, we're getting nothing but accolades from leadership, and it's starting to spread through the company. And other people that we typically don't do business with are calling us saying, hey, can you do something for me? And to me, that's the sign of success right there, that they're knocking on our door. We have more work than what we need to do, and it's because my team's doing a fantastic job. Sorry for the long answer.
No, it's great. And I love how you, as part of the learning solution, you have a blended approach with different experiences along the way versus, falling for traps that we still unfortunately see L&D teams do nowadays, which is e-learning will solve it all, or, just jumping right to content. And I also love that you're celebrating the wins with your team, going the extra mile and applying for awards to celebrate the hard work that everybody's doing together, and encourage all teams to do that. The reason this is so exciting to me is because, if you take what Patty described in some of those stages of the ROI methodology, and also the concepts of what Lamont has been talking about, there's very clear alignment in where LearnOps comes into play, and why it is important in the context of ROI. So LearnOps is a new word that many of you might not have even heard of still today in the context of learning and development. And it's really derived from DevOps, RevOps, Marketing Ops, and it stands for learning operations. It's the framework and the concept of how do you align people, processes, best practices, and technology together so that L&D can respond to demand faster, have better consultations with the business, and place resources in the right areas so that you have faster cycles, better collaboration, and ultimately are coming up with higher quality learning solutions that will actually solve business problems. And McKinsey and Company said it well in an article they wrote online that is titled "The Transformation of the Learning Function and Why It Needs to Learn a New Way." And one of the highlights in that article, which you can Google online, says learning needs to be deeply integrated within an organization's strategy and core talent processes. Yet many companies feel their functions are ill-equipped to play such a role. And, after really diving deep into learning operations for over a decade, our whole thesis in looking at this, and I also know that Robin DeFelice is on today's call. I saw one of the comments here. So a big shout out to the research that she does, but she actually helped dive deep into what's holding L&D back in some research with the ATD and others. And if you ever want to chat with her about this, feel free to join the LearnOps.com community. She's an ambassador there. But she talks about how alignment with business objectives, collaboration with stakeholders, strategic planning, resource maximization, and actionable data remain out of the L&D's reach unless you address the fundamentals of operational efficiency. So some of the highlights of this research, which is published by the ATD, and again, you can Google this, 60% say that they have limited resources, 40% say that they have scope creep, and 37% say a lack of standardization. So with Cognota's research, what we've really identified and where we built a thesis around was that a lot of L&D teams confuse learning operations with project management. Project management is just one of the workflows or one of the processes in the end-to-end life cycle of learning operations. So that's when you start seeing teams say, and you might be a victim to this, well, Smartsheets is not working for me. It's too cumbersome, or Asana is not working for us. It doesn't do everything that we need. We need IT to customize this. What you really might be thinking about is that it's not purpose-built to solve all the problems of learning operations. And that's why still, even if you have a project management tool, we see a lot of L&D teams using another 2, sometimes up to 8 generic tools just to manage their learning operations. And when you work in a disparate system, and by the way, no other business function does this, they have purpose-built operating systems, that's when you start to see the inefficiencies, the ineffectiveness, and a lot of the problems that Robin's research identified in that ATD article. You lose time. Generic tools are taking away ownership from L&D. They force you to be dependent on IT. You lose money. The inefficiencies cost L&D time, money, and cause negative return on investment versus being able to work at a higher productivity level. And then disjointed systems also lead to those data silos, which hinder the decision-making that Robin mentioned in her article, hold L&D back. So this is where some of the partnership aspects between LearnOps and ROI come into place so that we can take steps together to remove the disparate workflows and the data silos and now make L&D more efficient and have the opportunity to measure ROI even easier than ever before and more effectively. And so we're really excited about this partnership that you can see here. And for those of you who don't know who the ROI Institute is, maybe Patty, you can just quickly say a quick word on that.
Sure. Thank you so much, Ryan. So we were founded in 1992. You can see it there on the screen. And again, we founded under based on Jack's methodology that he developed back in the 1970s when he was at Lockheed. And it's all around demonstrating or creating and demonstrating value for the money spent in all types of programs, projects, and initiatives. It began in learning and development. We expanded it to across the HR enterprise, and now we're across the enterprise. So it's marketing, procurement, you name it. It all falls under our umbrella of work, humanitarian programs. And the reason that we do that is because the process is good, sound research. So while your technologies can make it easy for you, you still have to understand what you're doing, how you're doing it, and why you're doing it that way. And so our reason for being is to help practitioners learn how to think ROI, but also learn how to collect data, analyze data, report data in such a way that, one, they can get the job done given their limited resources, right? Make it easier, but still make it meaningful. And then compel decision makers to come in the direction you want them to come when you're communicating those results. And so that's what we're all about. We teach people how to do it. We will go out and do ROI studies, help build out that measurement strategy, that reporting strategy. We're in about 70 countries. We have partners around the world, many of whom are on the call today. And we just believe that you can't do good in the world unless you do well. And the only way you can do well is to do a good job of assessing the need, measuring, and evaluating the results. And so that is what we're about.
And at Cognota, we've been around for a little over 8 years, and our mission is to power learning operations for enterprises. We do that with technology, but helping to define that ecosystem around learning operations. Our vision is really to help redefine L&D to be that strategic business catalyst. And what we love about the partnership is that we get to marry that research from the ROI methodology together with the technology and the ecosystem that Cognota has built, and help companies power learning operations across the enterprise, like we've started to do with Spectrum, where inside the platform you can manage requests from your business partners and have the consultations inside to align to the strategic objectives and to those business and learning outcomes up front, and figure out what are the right learning solutions. How do we prioritize them to solve these problems, manage resources, and get data and analytics to measure those outcomes ultimately? And so I'm going to hand it off to Sarah, who will walk you through some of the workflows in the LearnOps platform, with special emphasis on the new ROI feature that we designed in collaboration with the ROI Institute.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ryan. Yeah, so what's been really exciting about doing this work is that the foundation is laid in Cognota, and we're able to build on top of the data that we already house for our customers in order to add the strategic layer. So like Robin was saying, collecting your data, housing your data, having it live somewhere safe where it doesn't go away after 90 days, and you have it as far out as you possibly need to make your decisions and see your insights. That's part of what's exciting about blending our product with this. So right at the beginning of your process, you've got people from the business coming to you. They've got all of these requests. We hear from customers all the time how it can be a bit of an onslaught, and it can be hard to prioritize. You also have people checking in with you with regularity, asking what the status of their request is. Often we know requests come into you also without all the information you need. So just like Ryan said, you can use this as the consultation place where you're going back and forth with whoever it is that made the business request, the team, and you're hashing out all of that, what Patty referred to as the input level information. So everything you need to know in order to figure out, okay, who do we need to train? What do we need to train them on? What's the problem they're having? What is that business function looking to improve? Because they probably have some things that they want to be improving. There's a reason why they're asking for this. So being able to request or collect all the request details in one place never goes away. You can go back and forth with them until it's all filled out. And then once you're like, yes, absolutely, we've got all our information, you approve their request and you move forward into the planning phase. You can archive requests. There's a few things that you can do with them, but this is really the start and the core of getting things into Cognota. So from here, you're able to prioritize. So you can see all of the different requests that can come in. You can see all of the different projects you have ongoing. I'll speak to it in a moment, but you can see your capacity, your team, who's there. You're going to be able to say, okay, based on what you need, business group, people who are asking for stuff from us, this is what we can do. Or, hey, they're asking for this, we're going to need more, right? You can kind of go back and forth and figure it out from both sides. So right here, you come through and you can see, I'm just reading my own writing there. Yeah, okay. So align around measurable investment strategy, keeping L&D focused. So having everybody understand the same stuff. You can see all the same information. We do have permissioning, of course, but everybody who needs to have eyes on what you're doing, they can see it in here. Create programs and projects that align directly with those business needs. This is basically what I just spoke about. And then you can track everything. So you can see what's been approved, what's waiting, what's sitting, what needs to be actioned. Which takes us into being able to start creating our strategy. So now I've said, yes, we're going to do this project for this business unit. We have all the information we need. We know where it sits priority-wise, because I've looked at all the other projects and programs I have going on. I know who I have available, and I know what resources I have. So I can come here. And what you see on this page is actually the ROI methodology. This is the basis of the model. So starting from level 1 reaction, which is how do we want people to react to this program? Going into learning, what skills and knowledge do we need them to take away? Application, what behavior change do we need to see created by this program? And then into impact, how do we need to change or improve the business? What were those business goals that came in? And then are we going to maybe add anything additionally in here? And then that ROI target. So all the levels are laid out here, and we also have tips and examples. The tips and examples are really important. It's going to carry through this whole flow. So no matter where you go within setting up your program strategy, you see tips and examples helping you understand how to set your objectives. What does a really good objective look like? What are the objectives for the application level? What should you be targeting? So we're hoping that we can also do a little bit of training, a little bit of support through the use of this feature. There's, of course, always Patty in the ROI Institute. Should you use this feature and say, hey, you know what? We actually would love some more support. We'd love to have our whole team get certified in the ROI methodology so we can really use this feature effectively. Then you have the ROI Institute that you can reach out to for further training. But this is where you come to set your program strategy. Cool, thank you. That was my next slide thumb. Hope people saw that. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example for the reaction level. I know somebody mentioned in the comments that so many times we start just at what are the learning needs for the program, and the benefit of this is being able to step all the way back from input to reaction learning all the way through. So you're always going to want to start at reaction, super important. You can set your reaction objectives. We will have the ROI Institute's recommended reaction objectives that you can select from also. So like I said, this whole feature set, it's really going to guide your users through creating best practice objectives and a best practice strategy. So you can set your objectives. You could share this with the team. There will be ways that you can say whether your objectives were met. There's also a full measurement plan, but this is the very first starting block. And I think we can move forward again. Great. So once you have the high level of your strategy together, you want to understand how much money are we able to spend, right? So looking at your budgets, managing your capacity, it's all in the same tool, same place. You have all your data all together, and you can make all the decisions you really need to make just working through Cognota. You can break your capacity into teams. I feel like this is valuable to mention as well. So you could look by different groups. You could say, I want to see all of my strategists. I want to see all my trainers. I want to see all my facilitators. I want to see all of these different groups of people and see how busy they are. You could also look by where they are, location-wise, but lots of ways to slice and dice your capacity and understand how much money can we spend? How many people do we have? What does our resourcing really look like? Cool. So here, we spoke about how you don't always want your solutions to be online. You don't want to just default to what you know or to the easiest possible / potentially least expensive option. What you want to do is you want to look at your objectives and you want to say, okay, what is it we're trying to achieve? And based on that, what solution do we need? And that's the real benefit of having this all in one place. Okay, this is kind of exciting. This is exciting for me. I think it's exciting for Patty as well. So once you have your objective set, so imagine I'm taking a look at my objectives for the reaction level, and I want to create a plan for how I'm going to measure these. Best practice says you should do that when you create your objectives. You should do that before you've run your program, right? Because this also helps you design the program that's going to meet these needs, answer these questions. This is really your plan moving forward. So the section where you see evaluation plan and results, you're going to want to think about, how do I want to measure this? What kind of data do I want to collect? Who am I going to be talking to? How often do we want to talk to them? Are we asking them questions? What questions do we want to ask? Creating that whole plan ahead of time really does help you to do what Lamont's team has been doing, which is create programs that meet specific results and then look at those results and keep iterating until you get what exactly you need to get, which in their case was really impressive. They went from like 56% to 88%, which is crazy. You also will be able to upload your evaluation evidence. So once the program is run, you're going to run your questionnaires, focus groups, whatever it is that you've done to measure the results of your program. And then you can upload all of those things here. So again, all your data living in one place, being stored. If you were to go back to stakeholders or your team and want to explain to them the results, okay, these were our objectives. This is what happened. This was the plan, and this is what happened. You can really dig into all of the detail you need to have here. You've got everything laid out, and you could really just share this one page on Zoom and speak to your team about what happened and why, and make plans for moving forward. So what we're looking to provide here is that one place where your whole strategy lives, all the way through setting your objectives for the program, creating your evaluation plan for the program. You run your program, you run the evaluation, you upload the results, and you say what happened. And then we have a nice one pager where you can see everything together there too.
So we're really excited about bringing this innovation to the industry, particularly in a time where you really need to be careful as well, because almost every technology vendor in the L&D ecosystem or planet right now is talking about impact and ROI. And I always coach customers, even prospects who are considering other solutions, et cetera, to ask questions. What evidence is this based on? And, describe to us how you can actually get to an ROI. And that's why we're so proud to partner with the ROI Institute, where these concepts are evidence-based. They're based off of 3 decades of research, where we're bringing you best practices and streamlined technology and workflows to do this together so that it becomes easier on you. There's some data out there that says only 50% of the industry right now is measuring the impact of their programs. And out of that 50%, only 30% are making it to level 2. And then the data gets, drops off even worse from there. So part of our goal, and where we're going to be able to innovate because we're a technology company in the partnership with the ROI Institute, is really figuring out over time, especially with your feedback, the market and customers, how to make this easier for people so that we can actually manipulate how many L&D teams are doing this and making it easy for them. And other industries have done this before. In marketing or marketing ops, you have return of ad spend. So this is where we can get to the return of learning spend and get more calculated and make it easy and actually change and make a shift in the industry for the better. And what we're even more excited about that you'll see next year is we've been slowly releasing a new feature called Sidekick AI, which is essentially LearnOps AI, where it's a chat UX layer that sits on top of all of these workflows and data sets so that it can be a super charger essentially to each of the L&D team resources across your team so that you can just get answers faster, get access to data faster, understand where you can make improvements. And I think over time, we can advance this technology to help you actually do the calculations around ROI as well. So leveraging workflows, data, best practices, and methodology with AI to really take this home for L&D teams and our customers. And the whole goal of this, obviously, is to help you become that catalyst for performance and business growth, where you have technology and methodologies and a framework to both support top-down business priorities and also those bottoms-up requests so you can become better learning consultants, better prioritize resources and time, and get access to data so that you can do exactly what Lamont said, show that ROI on those programs and get access to more budget to grow your teams and your workforce. And with this, our real aim is to allow learning operators like yourself to have that data to know what those objectives are so that you're no longer talking about how do you get that seat at the table. With this partnership, we want to make it easy for you to get that seat at the table so that this saying in L&D just fully goes away, right? That's the ultimate holy grail for us in doing this. So we really appreciate your time today, and we're going to jump into question and answers, Q&A. There's a lot here. Before going there, we're welcoming you to come and see a sneak peek of this feature for yourself. If you'd like, you can scan the QR code here to book a consultation if you're not already in touch with Cognota. And in doing so, we're actually going to give you a free ebook to Patty's new book that maybe, Patty, you want to talk about quickly.
Sure. Thank you again, Ryan. So this is our new book, Show the Value of What You Do. Each of you will get a free copy when you come for your consultation, when you book your consultation. But the book is really looking at the ROI methodology from a broader perspective. So it's not just learning and development related. It has a lot of the stories where we've applied the ROI methodology in other contexts, but it's an easy read. It's a fun read, not so technical. So hopefully you'll enjoy it. So like I said, a lot of good stories.
All right, and just jumped ahead, but we'll jump into some question and answers. We have a few here, starting with, and let me just scroll up, measuring soft skill behaviors at level 3. What's your definition of behavior? Because the skill effective listening has about 10 different behaviors. I'm silent while the other is talking. I'm not thinking my answer while the other is talking, etc. Is that something, Patty, that you want to perhaps respond to?
Sure. I know. I saw that comment earlier, and it's a great question. So a skill may not be a behavior may not be a skill, but it is doing something different with what they now know. So if you have an effective listening program and it has 10 different skills you're teaching them, or 10 different behaviors, whatever it is you're focused on, not every person is going to use every behavior when you want them. So it's all about setting up your objectives. What exactly is it that you want them to do so that it will improve whatever the end game is, so whatever the business measure is. It may be they're going to learn all these skills, but you really only want them focused on these 3 because these 3 are causing the problem, or the lack of these 3 are causing the problem. Or it may be we have 10, if 80% of them will use 5 of them with every customer, we can then improve output, quality, cost, and time. And that's why that front-end assessment is so important. Thinking through, why are you doing it in the first place? And why do you care if they are better listeners? What is it you're trying to accomplish? And then what needs to change in order to accomplish that? And then what exactly is it they need to learn to create that change? And that, again, that change could be behavior, it could be skill, it could be processes, it could be implementation. So whatever it is, but you really define that up front. So I'm not sure that answered it, but hopefully it did.
No, I think that was great. And there's a follow-up question. It appears at levels 1 to 4 in collect data align with the Kirkpatrick's level of training evaluation. Is that correct?
Yeah. So, and I mentioned, I did respond to that one earlier, and I'll just share with everyone else. It really starts with Raymond Katzel's work in the 50s. So there were 4 steps, a conceptual framework. That's the early 50s. And then Don wrote about it when he was publishing a series of articles with ASTD. He wrote about it. And if you'll read his first article, he actually cites Raymond Katzel. And somehow it all stayed with Don. But Jack actually operationalized the framework in the 70s. So there were no studies, there was no model, it was just conceptual framework. Jack actually operationalized it in the 70s when he was at Lockheed and then married to a cost benefit analysis. And then Jack's book, 1983 Handbook of Training Evaluation, came out 10 years before Don's did. So that's a little bit of the history. Now, hats off to Jim and Wendy for really doing something with that framework, but that's a little bit of the history of it, and it often gets lost. But Ryan, the other thing that often gets lost is a lot of people will look at the framework, whether it's our framework or Katzel's conceptual framework, or whoever's framework, it could be the balanced scorecard, that's a framework. People will often look at a framework and think of that as a methodology. And it's not. It's just a framework. It's just a way to categorize data, conceptual framework. Okay. The process is what gives the framework the power, the value. So it's the process that gets to the right measure. So a lot of these technologies that are out there that have, they're trying to standardize the questions, and they send a survey out after every training, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. And in 90 days, you're seeing this, 300% ROI on something that it's not really, it could happen, but there's no real sound methodology under it. And that's the difference. And so the framework gives us logic. It gives us a way to categorize measures in a meaningful way. And there are many different measures that could fit into any of those boxes. So that's what the framework does for us. But the power is in that process, that methodology that you use to get there. So hopefully that answered it. And have any follow-up questions, I could answer those.
Thank you. And Lamont, we have a couple questions for you. Is there any relearning opportunity for gaps observed or errors in the process?
Absolutely. What we're doing now is it hasn't been launched yet, but we're coming up with a 9-month check-in session. And what that means is those folks that have graduated post 9 months will be coming back to Stanford for a dipping into their skills. And it might be, and we're just mapping it right now, so I can't tell you exactly what it is, but anything in terms of tools, sales skills, or anything like that. So absolutely. And somebody also mentioned this in the chat, and I need a chance to respond. How does the manager get involved? Well, we have a meeting with the managers that send their folks up here, and these are new hires. So 2 weeks prior to them coming up, the sellers, the new sellers, we take the managers through the curriculum, and of course in a condensed fashion over a 2-hour period. And they only need to come once because they have multiple people that they're sending up, but they only need to come once. We take them through to help reinforce what we're doing with those sellers. And also for 2024, we just launched a in-field version for our experienced sellers. So everybody's saying the same thing since we're seeing so much success with the new hires. So just think what that's going to happen with the experienced folks, because they need a re-dipping. They need a re-energizing. And some policies, processes, and tools have changed, so they need more introduction on that also.
Thank you. And somebody asked the question, I'm also curious, the programs over those 12 weeks, what's the total program instruction time?
It's about 50%. Because what we do is we weave in selling time during those 12-week periods, because you all know for sellers, they can't sell unless they're out in the field, and that's what they're hired to do, is selling. So we pretty much blend it. So most prime selling days are Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So we hold training on Monday and Friday, and a half a day in between. So 2.5 days per week of in-field and 2.5 days of training. With the exception of weeks 5, 9, and 12, they're here in Stanford all week.
Got it. And we have a question, Patty, about measuring soft skill behaviors at level 3. What's your definition of behavior? Because the skill effective listening has about 10 different behaviors.
Yeah, and I think we talked a little bit about that earlier. Behavior is, behaviors, skills, process implementation. I mean, technically, if you're using a new skill, you sort of changed your behavior anyway, right? So it's really just the consequence of, it's really using what you've learned. And however that is applying that new skill, is changing the behavior as measured by, a 360 feedback, for example. It's applying a new skill as measured by observation or blank. So it's using what you now know. So I know how to do it. I am able to apply this skill. I am able to change my behavior. The question is, are you? And that's what that level 3 is.
Thank you. We have a question in the chat that Sarah provided a bit of context to. What integrations are included with Cognota? And Cognota does have access to different integrations, and that's one of the areas that we'll be spending time with new customers on this feature on. But with that said, our immediate priority was not so much on how do you get data from the business through integration systems. It was more about how do you get data from business partners. So if you go back to the slides on the request or consultation process, it really starts there. You want to go through an exercise where it's a little bit of outcomes thinking. What's the problem that we're solving? What does success criteria look like? And how do we create a roadmap to work backwards into that? One of the questions in that roadmap, or that should be incorporated into that roadmap, is what evidence will you, the business partner, be able to provide us to show that we actually achieve that success? A lot of the times you don't need to integrate into the business systems to get that. You just have to have really strong business partnerships in order for people to provide that to you. Where it falls apart is a lot of the times in your LMS or whatnot, you try to think about ROI and collection of evidence, but those systems don't really have that consultation process in the front end. And if you don't have a good, strong consultation, then the business partners aren't going to be really motivated to do anything for you. They're going to say, wait, you're coming to us at the end and you want what? Why would we do that? But if you set up the work process properly where the business partners come to you as a learning partner and they're asking you for help to achieve an outcome together, they're going to be really motivated to give you access to information, to show evidence together in a partnership to achieve that. So with the feature that we released, we're really focused on the ingestion engine. How do you collect the evidence, upload it into Cognota so that it ties back to your data models? And that's how we're looking at it right now to make it more feasible and easier to do right out of the box without having to get IT involved from big integration projects. So, again, we really thank you for today's time. If you want more information on LearnOps or ROI, feel free to visit cognota.com if you're wanting to learn more about the software. The ROIinstitute.net if you want to learn more about the ROI methodology and how to get help from the ROI Institute. You can visit LearnOps.com to continue the conversations and sign up to this free community where there's over 5,000 L&D professionals who are participating in conversations, asking each other about best practices, how to overcome problems. And then you can get access to various ROI Institute books, including Proving the Value of Leadership Development, which is on sale right now. And again, we really thank you for checking in today. And we hope you have an amazing holiday approaching and look forward to being in touch with you soon. And thank you to all my fellow thought leaders and colleagues who took the time today to speak on these important topics as well. Lamont, Sarah, Patty, thank you so much.